John.
Mal, what's the
So
word?
been a crazy couple weeks, hasn't it?
It's always been a crazy couple weeks, man.
And it's funny. It's NFTs are. It feels like you're moving a year a day, but you're also aging a year a day. It
Yeah.
feels like right now in this space.
And when I started this stream, I had all dark hair, and now I have half gray hair. Every time I do a stream, it seems like creases.
It's been a crazy run. It's been a crazy week in NFT land. Like thinking
Yeah, it has
about.
been. It has, Mal, and I have to ask you. I've heard a lot of buzz around this Red Bean DAO, and I want to know. I mean, who are the shady characters involved in this Red Bean DAO? What kind of dirt have you dug up on the people involved in the Red Bean DAO? Do you know these folks involved in this Red Bean DAO?
I mean, this is actually like one of the the toughest things where it's like, where's the line between like what you're focusing on both with NFT culture, but then also
Mm-hmm.
the opportunities to make friends and participate in other things. And
Mm-hmm.
you'll see today that my Twitter handle down there in the lower left, Mal underscore NFT. It became time, I think, to start separating the what is part of what am I doing on my own as a collector in the space, and what is NFT culture representing. And because I'd kind of been the main user of the NFT culture Twitter handle, like people knew that as me, and that was cool because we're building a bunch of followers and everything else. But I was being in the space, as long as you build a bunch of relationships, and I've built a lot of relationships with a lot of different people. And what's interesting is like we all come at this space in very unique different ways, right? You come from kind of the DeFi space. Rob comes purely from the art and luck
Mm-hmm.
and having a great eye space. Mike comes from the technical background, and I come from kind of the relationship side of it, right? And I've always been a networker, even in our 20 plus years knowing each other. And like I was just lucky to get to know a group of people, mostly in the Nifty Gateway Discord, over the last year. And it's funny, like I when I saw Azuki, I knew it was going to be big. It was sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but like when you look at kind of how they were doing things, you look at the just the technicals. Like the website didn't go down ever. Uh, it was able to keep up with demand. The art was polished. The roadmap didn't promise too much. The team, was a good team. Like I was excited about it from the beginning. So I minted Azuki like from the get go, and then right after they revealed, like I sold the pump, and I had like a super rare one. I had two of them, and I sold them both. And I was like, man, like I had this FOMO for like days of like, do I come back in or not? And I have a policy that I don't buy anything over 2 ETH. If I missed it and it goes above a 2 ETH floor, I don't get back in. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
my and I still have that practical mindset, right? I think most of the time, like if I miss something, there's no reason to like kind of FOMO back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But then like I was just like, man, I have to have Azuki exposure. I have to. And so I bought this one Azuki for like 5.5, which is the most expensive purchase I've made in like NFTs ever, right? On its own, right? My first purchase. And then within 10, 20 minutes, this group of people that I know that, from artists to people that work in the industry to investors and everything else, these 10, coincidentally 10 people
Mm-hmm.
are talking about Azuki, and just like within, you know, 20, probably within an hour, I had
Mm-hmm.
made the most expensive purchase I made at 5.5 ETH, and then decided to participate in the Red Bean DAO to buy the second rarest Azuki for 120 ETH. And like, I was the smallest participant in that. I won't go into like any distributions, but um, I was equally small with some of the others, and which for me is still bigger than the 5 ETH. that I had just spent earlier that day, and I'm like, holy crap! Like my Azuki purchase exposure just like went bananas. Like it's completely contradictory to everything that I ever done, right? And I don't encourage anyone to ever do that. Like unless like obviously not financial advice on any of that, but like I just for me the fundamentals, the team, everything else, the fact that like they invented ERC 721A, which is now the gold standard for every single contract that exists. Like everything that they did was like so incredibly polished that for me it made sense to take the risk. And then you know me, I try to paper hand everything. So now I'm like, do I get out of my Azuki that I just bought? And then I'm like, well, now like I won't get the airdrop if it goes up or down, and like because I'm part of this DAO and everything else. And so timing and everything else kind of uniquely positioned itself. And the group, it's really interesting about this is that
well, wait, Mal, wait. Before you get into what's really interesting, I want to interject here. Just give you a minute to breathe. What's really interesting to me, and I think the other team members here at NFT Culture, is we didn't hear much about this opportunity with the Red Bean DAO until after it was made, and I'm just wondering, you just decide to leave your fellow teammates out on this one, or like you were? It sounds like you were. This is the most confident you've ever been on a project, and you've been showing me in messages all these things that just turds, and then the one you're most confident about, you don't share the intel. What's going on, man? Just
I share the intel. Like I share everything that I'm super excited about. And we all have friends outside. Do you invest in crypto and don't involve me?
Oh, of course. Yes.
Would you say that like a substantial portion of your investments are not including me?
For sure, but never with this type of high conviction. I mean, it sounds like you knew this was a winner from the
no,
start.
I mean, here first and foremost, it was a unique opportunity for me, and it was timing. I didn't have 2 hours to go pitch the team and everything else. And Mike and I talked about it, and we all know, and we have had this, for anyone listening, we've had this conversation offline as well. So thanks for the very tough question live. But like what would have you would have likely participated. We had this discussion.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
You would have wanted to be a part of that, right? From an NFT culture perspective, would NFT culture have participated in the DAO, knowing the risk tolerance of the group and Mike and others? The NFT culture as a group would have likely not participated in this, right? That type of exposure wouldn't have been something that NFT culture is a like a DAO within a DAO would have participated in. And so then you go back to like the group, right? Like it's a group of friends that we talk regularly, right? Some of them have been on the website, some of them have been featured, some of them have come on stream with us. And so for me, it was one of those things that I didn't have a very long time to decide to commit to. All that being said, the smart play for us would have been like, if I have that level of conviction, we should have gone and bought a bunch of floor Azukis right after that, right? Like if I felt that and I thought I was right there, like why wouldn't I? It's calling it gambling to some extent. Like when you and I are playing craps together in Vegas, if you're rolling a hot hand, I'll load up on your numbers, right? And so like the play probably would have been, hey, do we go place bet some 6 and some 8s on the hot hand?
So Mal, was there sorry to derail here, but I'm really curious about the Red Bean DAO because it looks like it came up pretty quickly on your radar, and then you guys went out. And by the way, I love the strategy that they executed here. For most PFP drops and these future utility pictures, the value accrues to the floor and then to the very top rare pieces. So I love the fact that the rare pieces now, like back in the day, you could get the rare ones early on and they were accessible. But for these projects that look really polished, like it's almost instant that these things are out of the price range for most folks to afford. So I love the fact that somebody came together and said, let's get a group of people and buy the top one. And if this project does what we think it will do, all the value will accrue to that piece. So I'm not sure who the mastermind behind the Red Bean DAO was in this instance that targeted this project and selected which one they wanted to go after. But kudos to them.
Yeah, I mean, it was the biggest participants in it. The founder of it was Trey and Donald. Kind of were like the leaders, and this is kind of where I was gonna hop to with my comment was like, what's really crazy about this is when you think about the amount of money that went into buying that NFT for 120 Ethereum at the time. It's not a small amount of money by any means. Like even the small participant pieces, right? So then you think about like the immediacy to make the decision because like this piece came available. We use our rarity tools. We looked at the view of like, do we think this is beautiful? Do we think like this is kind of it's got what it takes, right? And do we think that going back to your point, like first principles thinking, like the timing was definitely like off to say, okay, like is there value in buying a super rare piece? And like, can the project get enough momentum that the whales want to come in and ultimately be participants? And what I want to say to this is like, it's crazy, like the amount of trust that like Web3 in certain instances, like zero trust is the most important thing, but like the community like that you build and like your rock and the people that you get to know in this space, like we didn't sign a contract where we go out and like, do these things, but we all know that like, because it's on the blockchain, because like, it's all there. Like you can see, who sent ETH to whom and those types of things. Like that's going to be there forever. And ultimately, like we decided incredibly quickly to say, hey, let's go. And, without a contract, without anything, it's like, here's, 10, 12 ETH, go buy the piece, keep, and then do you put it in a vault? Do you keep it there? Like all these things now start happening. And like, I just want to commend the entire Red Bean DAO. Like it was seamless and it was like camaraderie and team building. And like, it was really cool to be a part of something like that. And like, I have that with y'all, but like we've forged these relationships over 20 years. This group I've known for, less than a year, but we all cut our teeth on Nifty Gateway and all those types of things. Like, and so it's just so interesting to just see how these new, and like this kind of goes back to the broader metaverse piece is like how we're becoming more and more digital and how we earn trust and how we do these things. Like from a psychological and thought experiment, it's incredibly compelling, and it makes you start looking at all these other DAOs that are popping up and like how many other people have their pack, their groups, those types of things. And like, right now the Red Bean DAO's done. Like it might not be done, but like I'm sure there'll be another thing that this group pops into. But like there's not, and the plan wasn't to sell it, but it's just so, from a thought experiment, it's just so crazy to think about. And I encourage like others to explore the idea, right? Because it is incredibly compelling to say like from a camaraderie standpoint how it works. The coincidence, then I'm going to shut up again, is that like we could have all just bought a bunch of floor ones and like the price action would have probably resulted in like the close to the same output, because like at the time the floor was between 8 and 12 ETH, and you go and buy a floor one and you look at it, going up from that stand or a little bit less, but like it wasn't like this massive exposure that worked out. But like, so we probably could have gone and done it on our own, but it was like a fun team building thing with this group of friends that we've made along the way. And I have to say that the buyer, Jason, is definitely the type of person that is, he bought a one-of-one invisible friend. He's been in Bitcoin, like definitely like taking this piece and like taking it to the next level and diamond handing and being a good representation of kind of the NFT community was really exciting too.
Yeah, so you like briefly talked about it, but I have to assume that the Red Bean DAO had no intention of selling this thing. Otherwise, you guys could have all just gone out and bought floor pieces and and had it yourselves. But you wanted to hold the piece that was, iconic, for lack of better words, to the set. So I guess the offer was just too much, but that means that you guys will probably buy something else, right? The Red Bean DAO probably wants to hold something. It wasn't strictly for the flip. So I'm going to assume that there's more targets in the future that you guys will look at doing. And we'll
Yeah, I
and
mean,
maybe talk about the Red Bean DAO expanding, with getting other folks in their DAO.
it's funny. I'm 1/10 of that group, and I can't go into like I can't go into like what that strategy is, because I don't think like like a lot of them were in LA for NFT LA. Like I don't think that there's been a post-mortem yet on a lot of this. I think that once you go through the trenches with folks, like you build trust, and of course there's going to be other opportunities and there's going to be other areas of focus. The plan wasn't to, hey, let's go do this, let's go sell it immediately. But the when you look at the market and you look at kind of where like fair value occurs at, and you look at momentum and ups and downs, you say, okay, like what's the difference between like pride and greed, right?
Mm.
And like we saw an opportunity to buy a rare piece of art and a good entry point that gave a group of people that trust each other exposure. And then you look at that as a potential exit point uh, to double or triple,
Mm.
or more in certain instances. And then you ask yourself, like, what if not this, then what, right? And like it is, I'm obviously a big believer in Azuki. I've held mine through all of this, but it was just one of those things that it made sense at the time. And I don't want to speak for the rest of the group,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think this is the end. But I also think like this is a really good example of how, once again, I think more groups should be exploring the idea of this. Like I'm actually, because I've been contrarian to like fractionalization. I'm not a big fan of fraction, and DAOs can be very dangerous, right? Especially as DAOs add people. Like for instance, like how do you come in? Like there would have been zero trust with 9 of the 11 people now,
Mm-hmm.
minus me and you. Like so,
Yeah.
then like how does that change that group dynamic? And so like there's a lot of DAOs now that like it gets prickly. It gets, I think, a DAO that exists with one piece of art is like a really clean, or like one set of art, like only Azuki's. But now, if you have insurance or you add members to the DAO after the fact, like okay, you can join the DAO, but you have to add an 8 because the total value of the DAO is X or Y, and then you want to leave the DAO, like that stuff gets really murky. So it is a cautionary tale from some of that, but like for some of these plays, even when you think about like even newer collectors, right? So like let's say Azuki's at 25, and let's say you think that Azuki's the next Bored Ape. Well, if you have 10 friends that each have 2.5 ETH, but they don't have 25 ETH, if you think Azuki's better than crypto brokers or cyber brokers, why not try that, right? Like there's some principles there that start to become compelling from a thought exercise.
All right, so you guys made this again. Congratulations, big sell. Got a lot of buzz on Twitter, and I got the comments. I happen to know one of these shady guys in this Red Bean DAO, which was cool. What do you do with all that ETH now? Are you guys going to plow it into? I mean, do you have your sights set on anything that other projects going to plow that ETH into?
Taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like the things that I'm thinking about are like first and foremost, like before I spent any of it, like or spend any of it, like I wanted to make sure that I talked to NFT culture, right? Because I did like just full transparency. Everyone knows I'm candid, right? I wanted to make sure that there isn't any ill will, right? And I was willing to have the discussion of because I am a part of this, like what does that mean? And I think like that also helps us define rule for anyone doing this, whether it's because you have a podcast or not, but like rules of operation, right? Like there should have been the opportunity for you, for Mike, for Rob, or anyone else involved in the team to be able to have a taxes. I've never heard of this project. That's funny. to be able to participate. And so first and foremost, like I wanted to make sure before I do anything, like to be fair to
Awesome
y'all.
idea. I'm sorry to cut you off, Mal, but that is an awesome idea for a PFP project, a totally anonymous one, and people can plow their money into taxes. I think freaking awesome.
Swag, hit us up in the or hit DM us.
Yeah.
NFT Culture Labs
I got an idea.
might help you mint. And then like you start looking at okay, like my wife is my partner and my better half. So before I do anything, like I want to make sure like I preach all day, realize gains and realize profits, and like you and Rob have made me diamond hand a lot of projects, and so like when you think about the projects we've been diamond handing, you start looking at how many chips you have on the table, and a well diversified portfolio is a healthy portfolio, and being a little bit too NFT heavy is always dangerous, or too Bitcoin heavy, or too Ethereum heavy, or Doge too heavy, right? Or stocks, like it doesn't matter. So like you start to look at how do you balance everything out. So that's part of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, hey, do I buy a VFriend? And Gary finally come on stream. Yeah, Ahab and the whale, right? Like, we've missed VFriends like nonstop. And then there's the other things like cyber brokers, right? I love the cyber brokers project. I think it's got a lot of upside. I think when you going, and I hate that I keep saying first principles thinking, but it's like a lot of people in the Discord have been kind of down on themselves. Like they missed Doodles. I missed Doodles. I was really upset I missed Doodles and almost flexed into Doodles at 7. And I was, but there's always going to be something else, right? You missed Apes, but you got into Aku. I was into Apes. Like, we made a mistake with Mechaverse. And I don't think that was entirely Mike's fault. I think, going back and rewatching some of that, it's not, so there are those big misses. But then you think about like, okay, now Azuki is objectively like from a 10K PFP, like let's say you say Bored Ape Yacht Club and CryptoPunks are 10K project. Mutant Ape Yacht Club isn't because there were more. Like objectively, Azuki's the third most successful project of all time, even if in its infancy. So like just breaking down Cool Cats, Gutter Cats, like all these things, like this powerhouse has come through and has objectively placed itself in the number 3 spot from this type of project. So what's to say there can't be another project that comes and breaks them all, or comes in at a clean 3rd or 4th or 5th? And so you look at teams like Josie's with cyber brokers, that starts looking like another really good project. But then it's also like, don't mint every day. Wait and find the projects that do have that kind of cultural momentum that they're ready to break through.
And there's also the PFPs that have utility that have yet to be discovered, right? I'm just going to use this one. And yes, I own it. So I apologize for pumping my bags again. Malachi says I always do, but it's just the nature of what you're owning. But like if you get involved in a PFP where the people that own that particular asset are active, that's really what it's all about. So like, for example, ETH Lizards, it's not one that's on a lot of people's radar right now, but it's exploded from mint price and it's continually growing quickly because most of the people that have it are actively involved in the NFT gaming space. And this PFP is like dedicated to looking for what's the next up and coming game to be involved in early. And so like, if that's interesting to you, if that's where you're spending your time and you want to collaborate with a bunch of people that are doing the same thing, that's one to look at. But that's what I'm saying. Those types of PFPs can generate value quickly if the people that own them are, they have like principles, they have common interest and they're actively involved. If you get into some of these hype things like Mechaverse where they're really cool, but nobody actually got one to do anything with it, they just wanted to flip it, then that's just kind of a dead dead end. So I think there's still a lot of those projects because there's so many spaces where that haven't been captured, where people with common interest can come together around a particular topic, and those things will grow. So I think there's still a lot of room. Azuki, I want to shift gears here for a second, just because we were talking about him a lot. there's some, I guess, like a little bit of noise on Twitter talking about how it always seems like before there's a major announcement or launch, the PFPs take off in price. I'm not really sure how you get around that because there's no regulation in the space and everybody's just kind of, you're on a project, you tell your friends about what's coming up, and then they go out and buy it. And the same thing happened recently, right before the big drop, the two item drop that was announced live. You saw the price just spike up, and I didn't know if that was on your radar, Mal. Did you know about this two drop before it happened, or no?
No.
Any thoughts on the dynamic of some people in the know really do well when they have the information?
Yeah, no, I wish we did. And like, here's the other, a lot of people call it front running.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think about it, like if I was gonna do anything, like I would have front run. Like the
Clones.
No, let's say, yeah. I mean, yeah. So first off, like, I'm the type of person who probably we said with 16 people on stream on a Friday that Nike was going to acquire Artifact in like 4 days before it was announced. And like,
mm-hmm.
with that information, like we should have front run it and gone and bought a bunch of clones, right? But we didn't.
Jeez.
Yeah. Like we couldn't confirm that it's real, right? These are rumors, and like we don't have infinite ETH, right? There's a lot of this is one of the things that like really frustrates me is that and like nothing against the influencers, they serve a great purpose in the space, but like the influencers, a lot of them have like tens of thousands of ETH because they were smart and they bought ETH when it was like 2 cents or $2, right? And they accumulated, and so now like a derivative of ETH is this new asset class that's NFTs, and these very rich people can, influence the market and get even more ETH. Like we don't come from that. Like we played with it, we dabbled in it, but relative to some of the big players, we're nowhere near there. So like we have to earn our ability to share and communicate. We can't influence markets the way a lot of other folks can, and so like we have this like loose affiliation with people like the Mad Pups, Fan3, King of Midtown, and others, like people who are like trying to provide guidance in a way that's not financial advice, but also not like market manipulation. And so like you think about like, the Red Bean DAO, word of the day, first principles. It's like, if you think like a big sale, like the number 2 NFT in a collection is going to make history for that collection and be the highest thing, like had I had that information, the smart play probably would have been, hey, I'm going to go load up on a bunch of Azukis before knowing that announcement was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We assumed something was going to happen with the what's up, Mike?
Yo.
We assumed something was going to happen with the garden party. We had no idea that it's going to be 2 air. First off, hats off to Azuki for an airdrop, 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And what?
It was a wonderful idea, airdropping 2 things. Huh?
Well, airdropping first and foremost is brilliant, right? Versus a claim, right? That's pretty dope. Yeah. That they're airdropping this they're airdropping 20,000 NFTs, right? Mm-hmm. Second, my thought was like they're the same NFT. It's not like Clone X where you're getting this and this. Mm-hmm. They're the exact same one. So like one of the challenges that people have is realizing gains, right? And Board Ape Yacht Club, it's like I had FOMO after I sold my dog for the longest time because like it's like, okay, what benefit do you get if you don't have the complete set? What Azuki's doing is like, hey, we're going to give you 2 of the same thing. And by the way, like you're going to want to keep, if we send you 1, you're going to want to keep it, right? Because that's like the culture of these drops now. But if you have 2 of the exact same thing, mm-hmm. now you can sell one so you can realize some gains for being an early adopter of Azuki. And 2, you can diversify and give people potential exposure into this project. So I think it was, once again, like a brilliant move.
Yeah.
Y'all catch me up. So Azuki's gonna do an airdrop to everybody?
It already happened.
Oh, it happened?
Yeah.
It happened at the garden party.
Yeah.
But they announced at the garden party live, he goes, check your wallets. And everyone checks their wallets and they have 2 airdrops.
And it's mainnet? They did that on mainnet?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I gotta look into that.
I haven't seen anybody do that except for the clothes.
I gotta see how much that cost them.
And for the record, for everyone that like, Mike's been heads down, like busting his tail. First off, for the JR drop for Ukraine, which raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is awesome. There's already trucks. If anyone bought it, there's already trucks delivering food to the people of Ukraine. Like JR is the real deal. Yeah, they're so Mike, hats off to you. We/Mike did all that work for free. I helped a little bit, like half of 1%.
You helped.
Maybe. Mike also did another project that's still live on NFT Culture. It's 0.001 ETH.
I bumped it up so that we would raise more money. 0.005.
All right, that was a test case. We'll put it in the notes after this to make sure that the contract for an artist like JR was fully functional. Mike's also working on the Monster Champions. We've always fully disclosed that we are helping with the smart contract for Monster Champions. It's launching Monday. And then everything else we're doing with like the TED gallery that's coming up in the next week. So Mike's been heads down. He hasn't been focusing on Azuki. Mike, so I shared kind of like the trials and tribulations of being a part of the Red DAO and like how I should have come to y'all and the everything after the fact and how you would have probably told us that's a bad idea.
Yes.
Mal, actually, just so you know, me and Mike did talk. Obviously, you weren't on the call, but we did talk about how you excluded us from the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kidding, dude.
It's easy to be mad after the fact.
Just messing with you, bro.
When I told Mike about it right after I did it, and Mike is like, he didn't say I was an idiot.
Yeah.
But he gave me all
right after you invested.
Yeah, remember? Because I was like,
no, I didn't want to say anything negative because I knew that was a big commitment that you made. So I didn't want to like slap your hand.
Mm-hmm.
I will say my only concern there is it worked out well for you guys because the person was trustable and ended up being trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. I mean, it's great that we've developed relationships with strangers that you can trust tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars or like hundreds of ETH with, which is a real testament to the Nifty community. And that's awesome because you didn't know any of those guys before we started Nifty Culture. So it's all new, just internet people.
Yeah, it was all Nifty Gateway.
For me to participate, I would have wanted it to kind of be backed by the security of the system, like via an actual DAO, like multi-sig wallet type situation. Mm-hmm. I love multi-sig wallets now. They're a little scary, so it took John berating us to start using them, but they're just super powerful tool.
Yeah.
Like,
especially for purchases like you guys made, that much value transfer. It's like, I definitely don't agree with Mal's the implementation, but I love the idea and the
idea is great. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
I lucked out, and once again, I met a lot of those folks at our event at NFT NYC, and we spend hours a day talking. Like, a lot of the alpha that we give in our Discord is a derivative of some of those relationships, and so like for me, and once again, it was more than double the biggest purchase I'd ever made in an NFT in my entire life, and I'd made that second biggest purchase like an hour earlier in that day. And so like I don't encourage anybody to do that. I do encourage people to explore DAOs with people they trust. I do encourage everyone to have multi-sig wallets. I also think that like having multi-sig wallets with people you trust like is also a good mechanism to protect assets and those types of things. All that being said, like I want us as a group to do more stuff as a DAO, but I also want to explore ways that we can help our community with DAO type of ideas as well. Like this was my first real entry point into that, and so I want to start exploring some of that long term as well. So there's a lot to focus on, and there's a lot to do. So yeah, Mike, we were just kind of hashing through that. We went into briefly like what would you do with the money. I talked about maybe I buy a VFriend and finally get Gary V on the hook, and then talked a little bit about the value of cyber brokers. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Mike, you mentioned you've been, or at least Mal did, you've been heads down on Monster Champions. I mean, can you drop any alpha or give kind of an update on where that project's at? I know you're just doing the smart contract development, so you're like super loosely connected with roadmap and all that, but
yeah, I think it's a really sweet project. I'm gonna try not to pump my own bags on it too much but everybody just keep in mind I'm pumping my own bags here.
Full disclosure.
I think it's full disclosure, and do your own research. I think it's a sweet project. I think the artwork's really sweet. We spent like so much time balancing the weights and polishing the assets that are going into the generation. So even like at face value, I think it's a really solid project with really good art. Behind the scenes, they've been working on the game, which is sounding really cool. The artwork for the game is also really sweet. I've been more exposed to the artwork than the game itself. I haven't been able to get my hands on the game yet, but I'm super excited to see it. I think they're close to having a demo video, or they possibly already have the demo video.
It's alpha, but that you can see the gameplay. But there's definitely it's not as polished as you'd see for like a AAA game that's like ready to launch. But it looks great. The fact that it's a blockchain game that actually is working better than 99%.
Right. So I think the combination of it being a really cool art project plus the utility of the tokens in the game, plus the game being much, much, much farther along than most of these projects are. There's been a handful of projects where the game is actually ready on launch day, like World Wide Web was ready on launch day, which I thought was really impressive, but that's like been a rare exception. But most of the time people are like, we're going to use the funding to make the game. This team got funding beforehand and used that funding they got outside of doing a drop. So they got, it's kind of some Web 2 funding, some Web 3 funding, but they kind of used that. They like did a more traditional approach where you come up with your idea, refine it, get funding, then actually build out the project. And so they've already been working on the game for like 3 months, which is kind of different model than most Nifty drops, where it's like, hey, we're going to do a drop, and if the drop sells out and people are excited about it, then we'll actually build the game. This is like, we're building the game, and eventually we want to have some usable stuff in the game, so that's what the drop's for. So I think their approach is really good.
It's 10,000, right?
Right now they're saying 9999.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's final, but it's close to final.
Yeah, I had a buddy that was messaging me late last night, and he was trying to, that's why I was messaging you, he was trying to get on the whitelist. But I was like, just go to the Discord, and we don't really have much control over that. You got to go interface with the Discord and the team. So
I wouldn't be surprised if you could still get on the whitelist.
Okay.
As a hint to anybody who cares. If you go to the Discord and you ask around.
So I think they closed it though. I think they closed it, the Discord. I don't know. I could be spreading misinformation. Go to the Discord anyway.
Well, they were gonna launch the whitelist yesterday, but like OpenSea testnet, which Mike can explain, is better. And then like they were gonna launch today, and then we were like, it's April Fools. You probably don't want to do a launch on April Fools, so they're delaying till the 4th. So they may have extended the whitelist temporarily. We're not on that side close enough to know.
We are going to have a special perk for Justice holders of Nifty Cult.
What?
So, yeah.
Oh, you want me to lean forward? Is that better? My framing, is that better? Was I sitting too far back? You couldn't see me?
John's actually just very short, so that's why his head only shows a little bit. Nice.
Very good.
But yeah, so Justice people are.
Do you know this person?
No.
It sounds like Steve with the
It does. This is somebody's burner. This is somebody I know. It's the burner.
Nice. Yeah.
So back on the game, Mike. So it's 10,000. The whitelist. You think this is going to sell out during whitelist, or people that miss whitelist can still get it in the public? What are your thoughts? I know you don't know for certain, but if you thumbed
the
it,
whitelist is there's the whitelist isn't 10,000. It's less than that.
Okay. So there's going to be a public no matter what.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I was picking my buddy out saying if you don't get on, no way, you ain't getting one. You got a whitelist. So.
Yeah, I mean, 10,000 is a pretty big supply. It's still a relatively small project. It's not one of those super projects. They're not doing any kind of influencer pumping on this at all, which is really good. So I expect it. I think it'll probably sell out, but I think it's probably going to be a little bit one of those like slower burn type sellouts. I don't think it's going to be like Gas War sold out in first 50 blocks type of thing.
Well, there won't be a gas war because it's a phenomenal contract.
We'll still be a gas war anyway, right?
True, but I mean, it'll be a war, but it won't be an expensive gas war, right?
Yeah, it'll be a self-inflicted gas war if people do it. No, we did the audit on it. It's looking really good. It's like 76K for the first mint. So, and that's what the numbers that we were going to drop on Thursday with the newer numbers, with the adjustment to the wallet batch sizes. It should be even slightly cheaper than that. So yeah, it's going to be really efficient. It's the same contract, same base contract they used for Justice for Ukraine, for the JR Cannot Change the War, and so it's the 3.1 version of Azuki, so ERC 721A. So it's pretty efficient. It's gotten pretty refined at this point. There's some refinements that they found for ERC 721A that I'm adapting into the Nifty Cult open source libraries too, but we just haven't finished pushing that to all the different libraries yet.
I think I saw that if they don't sell out, they're not there's like some sort of cap where they go into a locker, and then the team is going to hold on to the excess if they don't sell out within a certain time. Mike, do you have any details on that or no?
They haven't run that by me. I know that they're taking a small percentage of the total tokens for the project wallet for like giveaways and some for the team.
Yeah, I think it's a contingency. Like if it doesn't sell out, what do they do with the remaining pieces? Like because they're gonna have a set like end date. But once again, I think we should just have Palmer and Zach on like over the weekend and have them kind of answer that. I don't want this to turn into too much of a commercial for Monster Champions. I do encourage everyone go check it out. We are doing the smart contract for it, just like we did for Nude Punks and for JR's project, and some really interesting up and coming projects that are going to be fun to watch.
Yeah,
and Nick, I appreciate your constructive criticism, and if you'd love to hit me up on Twitter, either at Mal_NFT or at NFT Culture on Discord, would love any feedback that you have. Like we always want to strive to get better, so thank you for your constructive feedback.
Yeah, I didn't mean to pump. I'm just saying, with Raider, we had Nick on a whole bunch. SAS on a whole bunch. So I figured, hey, why don't we get the guys on for Monster Champions beforehand too?
Yeah, I mean, part of that's like where, with the reset where we've been heads down, we haven't had as much time to kind of be on stream. I think one of the things that's important to me is like we do need to get back on stream. I'd love to get back to doing a daily stream. We are looking at hiring someone to be full-time on YouTube to help us with this daily. So any YouTube talent, or if you guys have any recommendations for someone that wants to strive at that, we definitely appreciate that. But speaking of crypto raiders, man, they secured $6 million of funding this week.
Unbelievable. I keep dumping. That's crazy. I keep dumping it. The project keeps, I thought it was going to be another one of these projects where they kind of fizzled out, but God, every week they get better.
It's that slow burn, and both Nat and Sophisticated are helping the Monster Champions team. So it makes me bullish on that as well.
Yeah, they got a cult following now. That's why I'm saying got people messaging me because they saw the Raider guys are involved with this project, and I'm like, wow, what a space,
what a time to be alive.
All right,
I
guys.
think. Oh, go on.
There's not too much overlap between the two. I think the games are fundamentally different.
Yeah.
I agree completely. Very different interpretations. One feels more like a Pokemon strategy battler, and the other one feels like a traditional RPG.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just want to throw this out there because I have to. Aku, sorry, I have to do this. Their PFP, their pass to mint the PFP is going to be dropping they're taking a snapshot for an airdrop in the pass on the 4th. So if you want to get in the Aku universe, I talk about it on every stream. I have to do it before the 4th.
Hey, what are you doing, John? Make sure you do your disclosure.
This is not financial advice. I apologize.
Yeah, but that's not all the disclosure you got to disclose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am pumping my bags. I am pumping my bags here.
There we go.
It's like, again, it's an awesome project. So
it is a great project.
Yeah, if you want to go out, go get it. One of the chapters that are priced like very inexpensively, and that secures you a pass to mint for free a Aku PFP when those come out. So yes, no, come on, what?
I don't think Aku's a bag. I think Aku's great.
No,
educate me a little bit more about the utility of the existing chapters. So, what if you have all 10 chapters?
So there is no utility per se, other than you get to kind of guide where the project is going, and this is like a important brand for, I think, like real valuable PFPs. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say real valuable PFPs, but like real valuable NFT projects in the space. So like if you know what Aku is about, it's basically about empowering young Black kids, young Black boys to believe they can be anything they want to be. And so like the people that bought the chapters, like that are buying all 10 chapters, are probably people that aren't looking for anything in return to buy the 10 chapters, other than to kind of guide the project as it grows and builds a brand around it. So like the I wouldn't say that, like if that idea doesn't motivate you to own to go buy a chapter, then don't buy one. Yeah, it's not a project to flip, right? So I say I'm showing my bags. It's a little bit tongue in cheek. This is one project where I'm not really looking for any flip side, right? I'm not actually selling any of my chapters. I haven't actually sold any of them. So this is a project I'm holding because when I bought it for the message, and I bought it for the mission, and that message is to spread that message. But I will say that one of the, I guess, side benefits is that I think the team behind it, the core team behind it, recognizes it's a big financial contribution, and they're doing little things to pay those chapter holders back, right? And everybody likes to make money. I mean, that's no secret. And so like I think that the PFP is going to be more of it, forgive me, more of the cash grab of the Aku brand or like it's a cash generator, if you will. Like if you're into flipping, making money, I think that, not financial advice again, I wouldn't say, like, there's lots of ways to get this. You could publicly mint these things, but you can get a chapter very inexpensively, and that ensures that you're able to get a PFP. So that's
have you been pumping the whole time?
Well, I am, man.
I had to step away for a minute, and you're still going on your soapbox.
Yeah, dude. Well, listen, it's a very long-winded way of saying the chapters are not for. I wouldn't buy those to flip. Like if you're buying that to hold. But by the way, if you buy one, you actually get a PFP, which I think will be more of the flipper type of market space. Now, of course, the brand could build. They're planning on building. All
right.
Anyway,
I agree with everything that you. I think that Aku is going to go down as one of the most important NFT projects in the current era of history. I think what Micah Johnson is incredibly important. I think the way that he's doing it is awesome, and I think that I wish that I had exposure sooner.
You can mint it. You can mint Aku Tar. Or you can go buy, Micah has lots of pieces. It's not just the chapters, by the way. Like you could buy the timepiece that dropped. There's a whole list of them, and that gets you basically a whitelist to mint the Aku Tars. Again, I'm not trying to.
Can we do like an Aku? We should do like an Aku episode, like where you get us all caught up.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm off my Aku. I've been labeled a shill, so I'm off of that. But let's talk about Rafig. Okay. Again, I do own this as well. So,
I was trying to end this thing like 7 minutes ago.
no. Hey, this is super important because if anybody has Rafig and Adol, I think Rob sent out a message. So this is for Rob that today is the day they're taking their snapshot. So if I'm not sure what you have to do, but go to their Discord. If you're holding Rafig and Adol pieces, maybe you don't have to do anything, but if you do, go check it out. Today's last day before he drops his tokens, I guess, that are coming. So if you've got Rafig, go check it out. And I'm done. I'm done shilling after that. I could keep going if you want me to.
No, I think the Rafik piece is a really good one to bring up, and I'm really looking forward to Rafik's next drop. He was in Dallas, and I DM'd him. Then he was in LA.
Got ghosted. Yeah, I think just to kind of touch on the chapter thing, like my 2 cents is I've been thinking about it more, and I feel like old school Nifty people, like I'm outside of the Nifty world. I like cars a lot, and there's always this thing with car guys where there's like an era where you were growing up, and the cars from that era, no matter how crappy they were, end up being the cars that you want to collect when you're older. Like I like cars that are from the late 90s, which was just a garbage era of cars. I feel like this era of Nifties, the first 2 years, like 2020, 2021, I think that era is going to be for all of us Nifty people who've been in the game since 2020 when Nifty's kind of started to take off. That era and those art pieces from that era are going to have a special place in all of our hearts. Like even stuff that's kind of less interesting to you, like some of those weird like John Norlander ones or John Bergerman. I mean, like not Norlander, but Bergerman, like those weird ones, hand drawn weird things.
I think that's a really good interpretation.
Yeah, I think people are just going to have just a subconscious draw to those ones that they saw, because when the market was getting hot during those years, like and Nifty Gateway was dropping like hot pieces every single day of the week. It was no one could buy unless you were a super whale. No one could buy all of those. And so we all have those like white whale pieces that kind of got away, like into the ether. We talk about a whole lot around here. There's plenty of like Dead Ramen I still really like. But there's just going to be these pieces that all of us in 10 years, 20 years from now are going to be looking back at, and we're going to be like, man, I remember when I could have gotten that piece for $1,000, and I was just like, nah, I'm too strapped for cash, so I'm not going to get it. And I could see the chapters kind of falling into that, because it was kind of, there weren't a lot of drops where there was like relationships between the drops at that time, and then he comes out just out of the blue and says he's going to do 10 chapters, and people are like, what, you're already planning out 10 drops? That's nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that uniqueness aspect to the project will just have like a kind of that little,
his candor and honesty should be rewarded, where like a lot of other people, you're like, this is another cash grab, versus like, all right, I know what I'm going to get, I know when I'm going to get it, and I know what's on the horizon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've been thinking about that lately. So it's definitely caused me to have like some nostalgia, and like, should I go buy this old piece that, is not really, I don't want to say any of the pieces that I am actually considering, but
I think the issue that Mike, you and I have is that like we share a lot of like the affinity, and like it's funny because like I think we've also grown to like appreciate each other's appreciation. Like I became a bigger Mad Dog Jones fan because you liked Mad Dog Jones so much, right? Like I took the time to appreciate it because of that, and like I feel like I missed Aku, and I hate how much I missed Aku because of John's first NFT purchases were Aku, especially with Nifty Gateway. So it's you do start looking at that era, and I do have those pieces. Like I bought a Bill Eilish, and I went and sold the Bill Eilish because I listened to everyone who was like anti Bill Eilish, but I loved the piece, and so like I found a way to get back into that piece because it was my like second NFT. Maybe not. It was like my third NFT, and I just loved it. And I just, every time I saw it, I was like, man, like, who cares what everyone else is saying? Like, that piece meant something. and everyone, dogs on boss logic, but if I can, I sold it at the right time. But that Kobe Bryant piece, like if I could go back and get Mamba Forever, like hell yeah, like at an affordable price. And I think like that's the cool thing about that era. And like when you think about like there's two things happening is like that period of NFTs, there was time to like look at the market and understand that there were fewer marketplaces. We've reached this point now where not only is the frequency increasing, but like the breadth and the apertures widen where like there's so many more marketplaces. There's Prement, there's Discord, there's like all these things where it's like that age of innocence is kind of lost now where if I miss a piece, I'm not going to like think about it for as long. Do I buy it?
Mhm.
Do I not buy it? Where I'm just on to the next one. So it's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see how that effect plays.
Yeah, I think a lot of the like that second generation of projects that kind of came out after the like Bored Apes, Gutter Cats generation, like most of the stuff, and geez, this is only like from summer of last year through fall of last year, which is like so recently. But that second generation, I think what I've seen with a lot of those projects, like I go through my old discords every now and again and see what the deal is, and a lot of them are like, we've been acquired by blah, or this we're the creators have moved on from this project, they're just completely dead and turned off. And I think that that second round of stuff that was successful for a little while, I think a lot of that stuff is just kind of fade into the ether. I will say one project that we kind of been looking at, which is kind of one of those nostalgia projects, which is actually dropped quite a bit, and hopefully this doesn't change that because I still want to pick one up. But is the Hashmask project is I think a really interesting kind of first generation generative 10,000 edition project, or like large edition. I forget what the numbers. It's like 15,000, but it's kind of one of the early um, collection type projects.
That project is like one of the strangest projects from that time frame. Like that project launched so early that I mean, for as much I guess noise as there was around the project and the innovation, the innovativeness of the project, the floor price now is so strange. Like they had the right. I felt like they had the right people in the community, and then it's like I don't know.
I think it's sorry and I'm trying to be better about not interjecting as much, but I think it's suffering the Larva Labs syndrome where it's like you created this great project, but then like nothing happened with it. And like unless Yuga Labs acquires Hash Masks, everyone's like, all right, cool, this is a piece of history, but like everyone wants utility now and win airdrop. And if they don't get the airdrop, they assume it's not worth anything. So like for me, like this is like one of the pieces I'm most excited. I should probably just bite the bullet because I think it's going to rebound, and I haven't yet.
I don't see how it goes much lower than this. Yeah, I think my take is like it's kind of the end of that period where people were messing around with doing big collection projects, but people hadn't really figured out utility. And then like Hashmask kind of came out, and then it got immediately kind of ghosted by the more advanced stuff like VFriends came out with all its utility. Of course, Bake came out on the backs of that. So like it was kind of one of the last ones that was it was really the last project that was a big art project of that era. That was a big art focused project. And so I think it kind of was a important milestone in the history of Nifty's. And I think that's probably why eventually people, it does have a lot of inventory though. So who knows if it'll actually appreciate in value, but I think it's a cool piece to own if you're like kind of trying to be like a Nifty historian.
Yeah,
even though it's only 2 years old.
Yeah, no, it's like 1,000 projects ago, so it's like ancient. Everybody's burned out that actually saw that thing launch. If you're new in the space, you might not even know about it.
I think like one of the challenges that Hashmasks has, and like it sucks because like we helped JR with and thanks James if you're watching, but like everyone in JR's Discord is like, we bought Giza, like we should be the only ones who are allowed to buy this piece for charity. Not everyone, but a few people. And it's like,
it did come
guys,
up,
this is a piece, like literally, that all profits going to go to like helping people in Ukraine. Like, who cares? Like, airdrop can wait like a week or two. The issue with hash masks is like there's not like hash mask babies or hash mask pets or hash
Mhm.
mask sparrows. Um, so like I think that's where it's getting beat up. But then like
Yeah.
my view on hash masks is that same reason like when Gary Vee goes and finds an early project and it pumps, I'm like hyping myself up to go buy a hash mask right after this. It's like in 10 years, when you look at the history and legacy of this space, if you could have had a piece of this art for 0.555 that's that early,
Mhm.
like why wouldn't you?
True.
Yes.
And before the gimmicks, before the games, before the win airdrops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree. Maybe it was just late enough where it didn't get, what's the term that everybody uses? Providence. It didn't gain providence because it just missed it. Although, like I said, they did really creative stuff with the contract. Um, uh,
Yeah, it's one of those just interesting pieces of history.
yeah.
Yeah, and we'll do a video on Deadfellas. Nick, we'll make sure to kind of go deep into that. I'd actually prefer to have someone who owns some Deadfellas. I know Paper D's big into Deadfellas. I want to have someone who I used to own 3 Deadfellas and I papered them for like 0.5, and I know it went up to like 6, and now it's back down to 3. But I'd before we one of the people want us to talk about a bunch of projects, but we always do try to stay in our lane and only talk about the projects we know a lot about. So I'll
Mhm.
find someone who's an expert on Deadfellows in the near future, and we'll have them on to to go into more detail on that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe Deadfellows has the Doodles feel.
I never could get in on doodles.
I loved Doodles. Doodles was my like that's my last piece of advice. Dude in our Discord, and dude, shout out if you're watching, and it sounds like you're having a day. But you're a good dude. And like don't feel bad if you miss a project. There's going to be another top 5 project. Like everyone
Mhm.
said it was just going to be Bored Ape and CryptoPunks, and then Gutter Cat, and then Cool Cats, and now Doodles had their time at the top. I miss Doodles. I hated missing Doodles. I still love Doodles. Then Azuki comes. It's just you gotta keep looking. There's always going to be something else. If we think there's going to be a lot more people that are coming into the space, like don't look back, look forward. The Azuki floor right now is up to 27.2. I'm gonna eat some steak tonight.
Crazy.
Nice. Congrats on that one.
Yeah.
I should have just freed up the liquidity and bought in. Oh well.
I think I before you
Gotta
hopped
buy
on,
what you love.
I feel that it's our partially our fault that you bought that Mechaverse, and
Oh, it's
so
100% y'all's. It's
No, I'm still. Hey, I'm not
99%
I
my
haven't
own
given up
fault.
on it, man. Mike, I haven't given up. I mean,
Dude, it's
Coinbase
down
is,
to like 0.3 now.
yes, but Coinbase, when they launched their marketplace, you might have to have a mecha to like do something on the
Maybe.
marketplace. Maybe
Rumor
you
is
can
they're
list for
delayed again.
free. If you have a mecha, you list for free.
Okay. What? Well, that would
There's
be
still hope. There's still hope.
okay. No, they won't do that. Why would they do that for that one random project?
I like how we
he's
met
trolling.
our Mike and mecha quota for the stream.
Yeah, you
It's a
always
good
got to
way.
circle
It's
back.
a good way to,
It's a good learning lesson. If you go and drop 7 ETH on a project that's hot garbage, then you're going to lose your money.
you know.
So just learn that lesson.
What else can we talk about, fellas, before we close this thing off? Let's talk about looks. Let's make it a comeback.
No, let's end
Mike?
it.
Looks.
It's making a comeback. They did, I
Let's
think,
call
10%
it.
of OpenSea's volume. It's pretty
I love
good.
how
Let's call it.
here's something. Well, let me just throw out this little dig at looks. I love how when OpenSea's testnet goes down, curiously looks testnet goes down.
It's very curious. Oh, love it.
Yeah. Anybody can piggyback off anybody else is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But don't act like you're innovating.
Yeah.
It's just a piggyback play. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how they. I'll never get over that mental block of what the weirdness, the shadiness at the start. It was just too obvious.
Full disclosure, I own Nooks. I'm still riding it.
Oh, what? You didn't dump it?
No way.
John, full disclosure, John's talked about 100% of his portfolio today.
Yeah.
His gators, his Akus,
Well, first
his
of all, I said
looks,
lizards. They're ETH lizards. Okay.
his lot
Not
lizards.
financial advice. Don't go buy this stuff.
Oh man. We just
All right,
need to have
guys.
a sticker of John's portfolio scrolling across the top, like buy looks,
All green.
buy Aku.
We do. It's right there.
Nice.
All right. Hey, you know, we need to do more of these. We're back to once a week, and hopefully we can get better at time management and find a full-time host to make it easier on everybody. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. And next week's going to be another big one.
Yeah, next week I'll try to have a green screen up for Nick. Nick, check back in. I'll put a green screen up for you.
Nice.
Better every day. Better every day.
All right, y'all.
All right. Bye.
Take it easy.
Bye.